I'm always conscious of the time. I could go on for 3 or 4 days talking about this subject, but I have until what time? Who will help me with the time? You, when it's time, you will take me and drag me off the stage. You will take me away. So will you give me 10 minutes warning? Okay, good. So I don't know what Harry said because I only know 2 words in Greek. One is, now I'm forgetting them. One is athorphos, brother, yeah? And the other is to cheers, but now I've forgotten. Huh? Yamas, yes, thank you. So being a natural-born salesman, I'm going to be selling you on agave spirits. So just be prepared, be aware. First of all, I will sell you on the salesman, me. I have been in the... So for those of you that are bartenders, bar owners, bar managers, for those of you in the bar trade, I'm one of you. I'm part of the family, and I feel so at home here in Greece. The number of times that I've come for bar shows and bar trainings with Babis at his bar show, at his bar school, I enjoy myself so much. I love this culture, and it's all made up of your characters and the way that you live your life. So I appreciate that very much. What I want to do is use your time very well. So I know that you're all very busy people. This will be a question and answer as I go along. So anybody has a comment, a question, please let me know. I'm going to, given the time that we have, I'm going to start with talking about the whole agave spirits category, which all centers around, guess what? The agave. The agave, which is almost seems native or indigenous or natural to the Mediterranean. In my hotel room at the Electra, something or other, Electra Palace, probably it's called, there's a painting of an agave with a quiote, the wonderful, wonderful flower that it shoots up, one of its ways to reproduce. So here is the plant here, this magnificent plant. I'm going to talk to you all about, I'm going to sell you, first of all, on the plant and what a crazy plant it is, what a unique thing it is. Here it is. This one is the species Tequilana agave Weber, the one and only species of the agave which is allowed to make tequila. However, there are many, many other forms of this, as we will see. Here's another variety. This one is called espadín. Espadín is meant to be the ancestor of the blue agave. It is also the one that is rather used for mezcal, and I will talk to you about the difference between tequila and mezcal. Here are the things that, these are the selling points to get you to be interested in the agave so that you are then hopefully interested in the spirits from which we make this plant. First one, it is very, very much a survivor. It can, by the way, if the Greek translations are not right, that's not my responsibility, that's Harris's. He will be to blame. As a survivor, it has very little care, whether it is growing wild. Of course, wild plants have no care except for the nature around them. But this is also the case with the blue agave. Once we plant the blue Tequilana Weber variety, it takes very little care. We need to take the weeds, the bad plants away from it, so that they won't start a fire, so that they won't create the wrong temperature situation around the plant. No irrigation. The wild ones, of course, are like that. The Tequilana Weber, the blue agave, is not irrigated. They have, for instance, in the highlands of Jalisco, where most of the agave growth is, they have lots and lots of water, lots of rain in the summertime, and virtually none the rest of the year. And still this plant survives. By the way, it survives in those sort of very dry conditions like a cactus does. However, it is not a cactus, whether that is of any importance or not. Now, one of the things that I'm interested in is that being a survivor, this plant has all sorts of ways to reproduce. The most common that is used commercially is to take, you see, this is a parent plant. This is a little pup. It's a little rhizome. It's a little offshoot. It's exactly the same as the parent plant. That will be removed and replanted. That's the most, it's totally natural, and it is the way that is most used for the reproduction. It's the most commercial. I would go into the other ways if we had a few more days and a few liters of tequila to pass around and enjoy. Okay, number 2, it takes many years to mature and be able to be used. It's an average with the blue agave for tequila about 8 years. Some of the agave spirits that I have seen recently, one is called raicilla. So if we think of the term agave spirits, then we think of the term like brandy, of which we have a Greek brandy, a very, very famous one. We have French brandies. Then we have French brandies that are maybe cognac, maybe Armagnac. We have different brandies within the category of distilled grape products. I have seen recently a bottle of raicilla, of an agave spirit, with plants that were 31 years of age. Well, what's the significance of that? One thing is no other spirit has raw material of that sort of age. Well, so what? So also, once we harvest this plant, once we take it out of the ground, it's finished. In order to have more agave, more raw material in this field, we have to replant with these little pups again. Now, the other significance that I would say of the age of the plant, imagine it is growing there in the earth for all those years. It is absorbing all of the nature of the mother earth, and of the father sky, all of the sun energy. So what might that sun energy do? I would say that from the mother we get this, number 4, the taste, but a very intense taste after all that time in the earth. The other part from the sun energy will affect this, intoxication, the psychotropic effects, getting drunk, pissed, as the British say. And as you would say, how do we say this word here? Huh? Okay, so I reckon okay, I'm going to sell you on this now. I'm a professional drinker. I've drank pretty much everything there is to drink until I've gotten drunk from it. like Guinness and champagne and red wine and lager beer and ales and scotch and agave spirits. And I reckon, you have to say about your own experience, I reckon for myself, I feel very different, number 3, being under the influence of agave spirits. Actually, it's different for me for tequilas, different tequilas, because not all tequilas are created equal. Some are rather mass-produced, rather commercially produced. Sometimes chemicals are added. Sometimes chemicals are allowed to be added, of course, here. Anybody heard of the company Monsanto? Monsanto's very, very, very powerful company, also in Mexico. So they have very good salesmen there selling their products, herbicides, pesticides, chemical fertilizer to the farmers who believe that that's what they should do. But those chemicals will stay in the plant. And it's up to each of us to decide how much of that sort of product, whether it's an agave spirit or a food, it's a tomato or corn or anything, how much of that we want to ingest, that we want to consume. Okay, so besides these being unique things, I think that they're part of the special things. The taste. I said to you that because they're in the ground, those plants, those agaves, all those years, they're creating this very special taste. Now, not everybody immediately loves the taste of agave spirits, whether it's a mezcal, a raicilla, a tequila, one tequila from one brand or another tequila from another brand. But I reckon that once a person gets hooked or sold, or they get the acquisition of a taste for agave spirits, they tend to love it. I go all over the world. I was in Dubai last and Hong Kong before that in Holland. Bartenders around the world tend to choose agave spirits. Partially, I think, because of their taste. Partially, perhaps, because of its image. And the image, I would love to talk about the image of agave spirits, but I'm afraid we don't have time to do that. So each of you think, hello there, how are you? Aristoteles. So pleased to see you. So each of you think about, if you like, the image for you about agave spirits. But I think that's one of the special things. Taste. So when I'm going to sell you on the taste, I'm going to tell you that gin has a sort of less natural taste to it because we're putting botanicals, either we're adding it to them, to the spirit, or we're distilling with it. But I like to think that agave spirits have a purer taste because it comes from the plant itself. Same thing for whiskeys. And anything that's aged a while, they're going to get their flavor from the barrel. With agave spirits, especially if they are unaged, they get it from the plant. You see what number 5 is? Can anybody see 5? This is a controversial one. This one is called health benefits. Can agave spirits be healthy? I'm trying to convince myself that, and trying to convince anybody that will listen. How can it be healthy? Well, there are groups of people that are diet, the paleo diet, the people that are doing training like fitness training, CrossFit training. They say, both of them independently, if any of their followers want to drink alcohol, they suggest they drink which one? Agave spirits. Why? Because it's got a different chemical makeup to all the other spirits. one that is healthier for us. It assimilates, it metabolizes, it enters our system in a friendlier way. So many people say to me, Tomas, why do I feel so good when I drink tequila? I say, well, it's because of this plant and its chemical makeup, and then also assuming that the producer creates it in a very pure, natural way. The next one, 6 mysteries and magic of this plant, will help me explain perhaps a key to the understanding the health benefits, number 5. Probably all of you know about distillation. So in distillation, we start, and as the vapors that have evaporated recondense, we call the first part of that the heads, the beginning. Then we have the heart, which is the purest part, and then we have the tails. With every single distillation that I know of, the first part is the most harmful, where the methanol is. We shouldn't drink methanol. It will make us crazier than we already are, for those of us that are in touch with our craziness. And with tequila and all agave spirits, guess what? It doesn't behave that way. I was once in mezcal country, and a producer in Chichicapa brought we were trying his mezcals. Faustino, wonderful man. He's got grandchildren, and yet in his presence he seems like a child himself. Wonderful, wonderful man. Probably because he drinks a lot of mezcal. And so he brought out at the end a petrol can of plastic of what he thought was the best, his favorite. He said it was only heads, only the beginning of the distillation. And it was beautiful. It was wonderful. I told somebody later, and they said, Tomas, you shouldn't have done that. You would go crazy, blind, die, and et cetera, et cetera. But what is the case is that agave spirits behave differently in their distillation. The beginning of the condensation has very little methanol in it. So what is the significance of that? Simply that it is this mysterious plant. No one knows why yet. I suppose they are studying it now, those of the scientists. So there's the ideas about how strange they are. Well, I'm afraid you can't see this. There's a man. He is this tall, standing underneath this thing. So he is this tall. This is actually an agave that I saw in Montevideo in Uruguay. The craziest one I've ever seen and the biggest one. So I put that in to show you what a variety there are of these plants. This is the blue agave. So we have, you see, we call it the agave, and we also call it the maguey and the mezcal. They are all the same name for the same plant. It would be like calling this a building, but it's also a tent, or it's also a shelter. So it's the same thing, but different words for it.